Welcome to Science Overview, key concepts to follow. We're going to use test A09. Let's go ahead and watch this video to understand how easy the science can be. If you look here at this sheet here that you have in front of you, you're going to see that on this video, I went ahead and highlighted with special colors. So first things first, if you look over here, key concepts to follow, what we're going to talk about here are in the blue. This is very important. The red are just bullet points, the main things to take away. And then the overall is going to be the most important thing that you understand here is going to be here in the yellow. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, the very top, key concept to grasp, make sure that you understand that everything revolves around this one concept here, all right? The concept is get to the correct area. We just say get there, that's it. All you need to do is get to the correct area. Psychology of this is basically going to give you on the test, they're going to tell you to do something, but they're going to go ahead and they're going to throw in other distractors. It's kind of like taking a needle and throwing in a pile of hay.
I think yeah, I'm not going to tell you, but I'm going to tell the camera, so don't listen.
Okay, I won't listen.
I think what I need to do is I need to be methodical and make sure that I don't miss it, because I feel like missing it is definitely a possibility.
You don't know which one is the needle because all of the hay strands look similar to the needle. Once you pulled all the hay away, maybe you took a huge fan, blew the fan, and the hay went away, then the needle would be there at the bottom. That's really all you're trying to do, all right? They're hiding the most important things that you need to do from the question in the data, which is all there and it's extraneous. We don't need all of it, all right? Just make sure that you get there. How are we going to do that? All right, step number one, underline. You must underline the important things in the question, all right? The questions are very long. You're going to notice that each one of these questions is going to be over 2 lines of text. That means you're going to have to read it multiple times. So what we want to do is simply go ahead and underline what's important in the question. That would entail all of the science-oriented things like increasing, decreasing, maximum, minimum. That would include all of the locations like figure 1, table 1, and that would include all of the numbers that they give you, 15 Tor, and that would include areas of science-oriented things. You'll see as we get into the practice, but underline what's important from the question itself. Then what we're going to do is we're going to have to reread that question multiple times. And they set the test up on 2 pages. So we're going to have to look at the data and then read the question and look at the data and read the question. Each time you take your eyes off of the question and go to the data and go to the data from the question and back and forth, you're going to get lost within the data. So if you keep 2 hands on the page, one on the test question where you underlined and you match up where they tell you to go, you're going to see that now we don't get confused by the data that's not involved. Remember, the two-handed pointing technique, okay? Okay, let's take a look at a practice problem. Open up your booklet to page 42. It's practice problem number 15 in the science section of test A09. Go ahead, take a second to get the test and the printout so you can follow along with me. All right, so here we are in problem number 15, and you're going to notice that, once again, the psychology is to give you more information than you actually need. The concept here in linguistics is this. People have the ability to read 2 lines of text one time and understand exactly what to do. As you go through and start adding lines of text, you're going to have to reread multiple times depending on how many lines of text there are. If you look here, we've got 2 lines, 3, 4, 5. We've got 6 lines of text, which means we're probably going to have to read this test question probably 5 times. All right? So a way to beat them at their own game before we start underlining what's important is you can come over here and actually circle the question itself. Within the question, there's a question, okay? Usually it will say according or based on information in the passage, whatever. Just start by looking at that, okay? So here it is. You see it says based right there, all right? So at home, follow along with me. You can go ahead with your pen or pencil and just circle the question itself. I actually do this on test day. So we're going to circle the question, and then what we're going to do is we're going to read this first. So let's do that. So I circled it. starting with based on the results. So now let's start with that. Based on the results in experiment 1, all right, I underline that. I've got to go to experiment 1, all right, underline what's important. It says, which of the following pHs, underline that, okay, tested would most likely maximize, we underline that, maximize, underline what's important, all right, the chances of hatching M. microria, all right? All right, so now what we want to do is you're going to take your right hand in this case, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to point to what's important in the test question, okay? And with your other hand, we're going to go ahead and point. In this particular case, I chose this problem because it's nice and easy. There's just one page. But if there was 2 pages, you would simply take your left hand now and go ahead and point to where it tells you, all right? So let's go ahead and do that. Here, the first thing that we underlined right here, it says experiment 1. So here it is right here, experiment 1. So I go ahead and point there. The second thing that I do that I underlined here, it says the pHs, okay? So now I'm looking for pHs, okay? That leads me down to here in the pH value, okay? And we're looking for hatching, okay? So I see that there's pHs and now they're dealing with the letter groups, okay? So now I am pointing here. But the other thing that I'm looking for here is I'm looking for this M. microcuria, okay? And I'm looking for the hatching. So I have to come over here, and I see here with my left hand, I now drop my left hand from the table number 1. I drop it down over here, and I find hatched, okay? So now I know that I'm going to have to look at this. So hatching tells me that this is the group, and the group leads me back to where I originally pointed over here. All right. So what I want to do here is with my right hand, I simply go ahead and point to maximizing. So maximizing with my other hand would lead me to the maximum, which is the intensity level over here. So with my left finger, I should be pointing right here now. All right. When I do that, I notice that here, O is the one with the maximum, right? Now, with my left hand, I simply go over here. I already know O is the maximum. So with my left hand, I simply point up here to O, and O tells me 9.0. With my right hand, now from the question, I've already been right here. Now I just have to scroll my finger down and find where 9.0 is. There it is right there. C is the correct answer. You're going to notice that we didn't even really have to, in this particular problem, read the first part. The test question is trying to throw you off by giving you too much information, and when you can't regurgitate the information because you reread and reread and reread and looked in different spots, simply read the question, find the question, in the question, underline what's important, and then with your left hand, simply go ahead and point. As you point to your left, from your right hand to your left hand, you drop your finger down in the right hand part, which is in the question, and you simply match it up just like we did there. Concept number 1, the trap on the test is to get you confused with all the details. Note, confused means you're looking in the wrong area. Thus, how do you get unconfused? You just look in a different area. Follow the directions with 2 hands. Point from what it tells you to do, figure 1, and take your other hand and simply point to where it tells you, figure 1. Drop your finger down from the question, and figure 1 tells you to go ahead and look at the x-axis. Look at pressure. Then match it up with your other hand. Point from where it tells you into the data, and then point there. Point, 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 point. Then you're going to glance at your answers, and then from there, answer the question. Let's go ahead and put it all together with science problem number 25 on test A09. First thing we want to do is read the question and underline what's important. Based on figure 1, underline that. Pressure of 2 atm, underline that. And we're looking for pressure in torr. So this is your right hand. You're simply just pointing. The first thing you point to is figure 1. Now, with your left hand, we're going to go ahead and use 2 hands to point. So you should point to figure 1. There it is. Okay. Now we're looking for 2 ATMs. All right. So I find 1 ATM. Okay. And then the next thing we're looking for is torr. So torr is over here. Our answer choices, when we glance down at the bottom, we see that we're looking for torr. All right. So here's 1 ATM. And our 1 ATM, that's the full line. You see it? That full line. Now, if we have 2 ATMs, this 1 ATM starts at 600 at the bottom and goes over here to 1200. So if we simply took 2 ATMs, that means that this line for 2 ATMs would be 1200 to 2400 because 2 ATMs is what they're asking us about. And all we have to do is simply double it, and you'll see that it goes 12 to 24. Then what you do is you look down at your answer choices, and answer choice D is the correct answer. Simply underline and then point. Here, you see that when you point to 1 ATM, you see it's the full line, so just simply double it, 25D. Let's take a look at another example to illustrate the concept of underlining and then pointing and making sure that you're in the right area and not getting confused. Step number 1 is to read the question and underline what's important. Here it is. Suppose a sample of methanol, let's underline that, is in a chamber of 60 degrees Celsius and 100 kPa. Based on figure 3 is where we're going to look to. All right, temperature is constant. Which of the following changes in pressure? We're going to change the pressure and keep the temperature constant. Let's go ahead and take our right hand, our index finger, and we're going to point into the question at figure 3. On your left hand, your index finger should point to figure 3 as well. Match it up. Figure 3, figure 3. Now, here it is, right hand, point to the next thing, methanol. In figure 3 with your left hand index finger, let's find methanol. Here it is here. It's the middle line. Now, we're going to go ahead on that middle line and find where they talk about 60 Celsius. Here is Celsius, and here's 60. That's the middle line. And then now 110 kPa. kPa is the x-axis, and 110 would be roughly right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the temperature constant here. So that means we're going to keep this level. But the kPa atmospheric pressure is going to change. So I go ahead and draw my alien finger line here up to 60. And then I go across. Now, this line here in methanol represents the boiling point. So if I were to go to the right, I see that I'm never going to go across keeping the constant temperature of 60. I'm never going to get that to boil. So what do? I have to look to the left. When I go to the left, I'm going to trace this all the way over, and I see roughly right here around 82 is where it's going to touch that line, where it's going to boil. We go from 110 down to around 82, where it touches the line, which represents boiling. So 110 minus a number gives you 82, gives you 28. Now, you know that when we go from 110 down to 28, that's decreasing. Here, H increase, here, J increase, those are out. Now it's 20 or 30, 28 by far closer. The correct answer is answer choice F. All right, the summary. 2 ways to get there. The first way we saw most of the time is going to come from the data. It's use 2 hands to point. There's lots of data flying around in there. Just make sure that you underline what's important, and then you go ahead and point. The second thing that you're going to see, and a lot of this most of the time is going to come from the experiments, because the experiments have text. And when you have text, sometimes when you underline and point, you get to the right area, but you can't answer the question. That means that you haven't had this type of science before, and you don't have a very strong background. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to pull definitions from the text area. This is what we call yikes in Junior Genius. Yikes means that you're going to go ahead and underline from the question and point with your other hand, and you're going to glance at the answers. But none of the answers are going to resonate as far as, oh, that's the right answer. So simply take your hand that's pointing to the question and go back into the top of the question and find a very specific noun or verb that's science-oriented that refers back to the area of the text. With your other hand now, you're simply just going to go ahead and finger scan or trace your fingers over the text area to find that word. Let's take a look at problem 36. 36, remember, underline what's important in the question as you read it. Days with no precipitation were most likely chosen in the study because precipitation would have what? All right. Right away, we underline what's important with our right hand now. We're going to go ahead and just simply point to precipitation or no precipitation. And then you come over here, and then with your left hand, we start looking around. All right, I got dust particles, concentration, concentration, and fair weather days. All right, right away when we underline, there's not really anywhere for us to point. So this right away problem is called a yikes problem. All right. So we tried to point and it didn't work, and now we're freaking out because we don't know what to do. So it's really easy. What do? We simply go into the question and we find something that we're looking for here. We underlined already that we're looking for no precipitation. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your fingers and you're going to scroll through the text area to try and find where that is. In the mini upper right hand, left hand corner here, you see this is the big picture. So I start up here. If I can't find no precipitation, then I would simply move into the study area. But for right now, a study, blah, 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 blah. Ah, here it is right here. No precipitation. Okay. What does it say here? It says fair weather days and dust storms. Okay. So there's no precipitation. So right away, we know that it has something to do with dust. You look at your answer choices here, you can see right away that the first thing we're going to do, vaporize, that's off topic G, and condense, that's off topic. We're looking for something that contains dust. All right, here it is right here. Remove dust or make more dust. Okay, now we just simply read it. It says composition, airborne dust particles in the 5 days of weather on dust storms. There's a dust storm and then there's no precipitation. So think, do you want to remove dust with the precipitation, or would precipitation put more dust in? If you just think about it, usually water or precipitation, that's a Scooby-Doo synonym, is used to clean stuff. So if we have a dust storm and precipitation, it would water the dust down. So the correct answer on this one is reduce. Answer choice H is the correct answer. Remember, when you can't answer the question by pointing, simply go back in the question, find a noun or verb that feels relevant to the text, and go ahead and finger scan and find it in the text area, underline it, and take that definition and go ahead and add that to your repertoire of understanding. Remember, if you can't answer the question, you are in the wrong area. So underline and point and make sure that you're underlining and pointing to the same area. The question has to get you to the right area. Chances are, if you can't answer the question, either you're in the wrong area or you're not strong enough with the concept of this type of science, so you need a definition from the text.